Hello guys, and welcome back, or welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be continuing with our reading of The King of Elfland's Daughter by Lord Dunsany. This is the third part of our little series on King of Elfland's Daughter, and we're going to be reading two chapters, starting with chapter 6, The Rune of the Elf King. So, let's begin. On the high balcony of his gleaming tower, the King of Elfland stood. Below him echoed yet the thousand steps. He had lifted his head to chant the rune that should hold his daughter in Elfland, and in that moment had seen her pass the murky barrier, which on this side, facing toward Elfland, is all lustrous with twilight, and on that side, facing towards the fields we know, is smoky and angry and dull. And now he had dropped his head till his beard lay mingled with his cape of ermine above his cerulean cloak, and stood there silently sorrowful, while time passed swift as ever over the fields we know. And standing there all blue and white against his silver tower, aged by the passing of times of which we know nothing, before he imposed its eternal calm upon Elfland, he thought of his daughter amongst our pitiless years. For he knew, whose wisdom surpassed the confines of Elfland and touched our rugged fields, knew well the harshness of material things and all the turmoil of time. Even as he stood there, he knew that the years that assail beauty and the myriad harshness that vex the spirit were already about his daughter, and the days that remained to her now seemed scarce more to him dwelling beyond the fret and ruin of time than to us might seem a briar rose's hours when plucked and foolishly hawked in the streets of a city. He knew that there hung over her now the doom of all mortal things. He thought of her perishing soon, as mortal things must, to be buried amongst the rocks of a land that scorned Elfland, and that held its most treasured myths to be of little account. And were he not the king of all that magical land, which held its eternal calm from his own mysterious serenity, he had wept to think of the grave in rocky earth gripping that form that was so fair for ever. Or else, he thought, she would pass to some paradise far from his knowledge, some heaven of which books told in the fields we know, for he had heard even of this. He pictured her on some apple-haunted hill, under blossoms of an everlasting April, through which flickered the pale gold halos of those that had cursed Elfland. He saw, though dimly for all his magical wisdom, the glory that only the blessed clearly see. He saw his daughter on those heavenly hills stretch out both arms, as he knew well she would, towards the pale blue peaks of her elfin home, while never one of the blessed heeded her yearning. And then, though he was king of all that land, that had its everlasting calm from him, he wept, and all Elfland shivered. It shivered as placid waters shivers here if something suddenly touches it from our fields. Then the king turned and left his balcony, and went in great haste down its brazen steps. He came clanging to the ivory doors that shut the tower below, and through them came to the throne room of which only song may tell. And there he took a parchment out of a coffer, and a plume from some fabulous wing, and dipping the plume into no earthly ink, wrote out a rune on the parchment. Then, raising 2 fingers, he made the minor enchantment whereby he summoned his guard. And no guard came. I have said that no time passed at all in Elfland, yet the happening of events is in itself a manifestation of time, and no event can occur unless time pass. Now it is thus with time in Elfland. In the eternal beauty that dreams in that honeyed air, nothing stirs or fades or dies, nothing seeks its happiness and movement, or change or a new thing, but has its ecstasy in the perpetual contemplation of all the beauty that has ever been, and which always glows over those enchanted lawns as intense as when first created by incantation or song. Yet, if the energies of the wizard's mind arose to meet a new thing, then that power that had laid its calm upon Elfland, and held back time, troubled the calm a while, and time for a while shook Elfland. Cast anything into a deep pool from a land strange to it, where some great fish dreams, and green weeds dream, and heavy colours dream, and light sleeps. The great fish stirs, the colours shift and change, the green weeds tremble, the light wakes. A myriad things know slow movement and change, and soon the whole pool is still again. It was the same when Alberic passed through the border of twilight, and right through the enchanted wood, and the king was troubled and moved, and all Elfland trembled. When the king saw that no guard came, he looked into the wood which he knew to be troubled, through the deep mass of the trees that were quivering yet with the coming of Alberic. He looked through the deeps of the wood and the silver walls of his palace, for he looked by enchantment, and there he saw the 4 knights of his guard lying stricken upon the ground, with their thick elvish blood hanging out through slits in their armour. And he thought of the early magic, whereby he had made the eldest, with a rune all newly inspired, before he had conquered time. He passed out through the splendour and glow of one of his flashing portals, and over a gleaming lawn, and came to the fallen guard, and saw the trees still troubled. "There's been magic here," said the King of Elfland. And then, though he only had 3 runes that could do such a thing, and though they could only be uttered once, and one was already written upon parchment to bring his daughter home, he uttered the second of his most magical runes over that elder knight that his magic had made long ago. And in the silence that followed the last words of the rune, the rents in the moon-bright armour all clicked shut at once, and the thick dark blood was gone, and the knight rose live to his feet. And the Elf King now had only 1 rune left that was mightier than any magic we know. The other 3 knights lay dead, and, having no souls, their magic returned again to the mind of their master. He went back then to his palace, while he sent the last of his guards to fetch him a troll. Dark brown of skin, and 2 or 3 feet high, the trolls are a gnomish tribe that inhabit Elfland. And soon there was a scamper in the throne room that may only be told of in song, and a troll lit by the throne on its 2 bare feet, and stood before its king. The king gave it the parchment with the rune written thereon, saying, "Scamper hence, and pass over the end of the land, until you come to the fields that none know here, and find the Princess Lyrzel, who is gone to the haunts of men, and give her this rune, and she shall read it, and all shall be well." And the troll scampered thence, and soon the troll was come with long leaps to the frontier of twilight. Then nothing moved in Elfland any more, and motionless on that splendid throne of which only song may speak, sat the old king mourning in silence. Chapter 7. The Coming of the Troll. When the troll came to the frontier of twilight, he skipped nimbly through, yet he emerged cautiously into the fields we know, for he was afraid of dogs. Slipping quietly out of those dense masses of twilight, he came so softly into our fields that no eye had seen him, unless it were gazing already at the spot at which he had peered. There he paused for some instants, looking to left and right, and, seeing no dogs, he left the barrier of twilight. This troll had never before been in the fields we know, yet he knew well to avoid dogs, for the fear of dogs is so deep and universal amongst all that are less than man, that it seems to have passed even beyond our boundaries, and to have been felt in Elfland. In our fields it was now May, and the buttercups stretched away before the troll, a world of yellow mingled with the brown of the budding grasses. When he saw so many buttercups shining there, the wealth of earth astonished him, and soon he was moving through them, yellowing his shins as he went. He had not gone far from Elfland when he met with a hare, who was lying in a comfortable arrangement of grass, in which he had intended to pass the time till he should have things to see to. When the hare saw the troll, he sat there without any movement whatever, and without any expression in his eyes, and did nothing at all but think. When the troll saw the hare, he skipped nearer, and lay down before it in the buttercups, and asked it the way to the haunts of men. And the hare went on thinking. "Think of these fields," repeated the troll. "Where are the haunts of men?" The hare got up then and walked towards the troll, which made the hare look very ridiculous, for he had none of the grace while walking that he has when he runs or gambles, and was much lower in front than behind. He put his nose into the troll's face and twitched foolish whiskers. "Tell me the way," said the troll. When the hare perceived that the troll did not smell of anything like dog, he was content to let the troll question him. But he did not understand the language of Elfland, so he lay still again and thought while the troll talked. And at last the troll wearied of getting no answer, so he leaped up and shouted, "Dogs!" and left the hare and scampered away merrily over the buttercups, taking any direction that led away from Elfland. And though the hare could not quite understand Elvish language, yet there was a vehemence in the tone in which the troll had shouted "dogs," which caused apprehension to enter the thoughts of the hare, so that very soon he forsook his arrangement of grass and lolloped away through the meadow with one scornful look after the troll. But he did not go very fast, going mostly on 3 legs, with one hind leg all ready to let down if there should really be dogs. And soon he paused and sat up and put up his ears, and looked across the buttercups and thought deeply. And before the hare had ceased to ponder the troll's meaning, the troll was far out of sight, and had forgotten what he had said. And soon he saw the gables of a farmhouse rise up beyond a hedge. They seemed to look at him with little windows up under red tiles. "A haunt of man," said the troll, and yet some elvish instinct seemed to tell him that it was not here that Princess Lirazel had come. Still, he went nearer the farm and began to gaze at its poultry. But just at that moment a dog saw him, one that had never seen a troll before, and it uttered one canine cry of astonished indignation, and, keeping all the rest of its breath for the chase, sped after the troll. The troll began at once to rise and dip over the buttercups, as though he had almost borrowed its speed from the swallow and were riding the lower air. Such speed was new to the dog, and he went in a long curve after the troll, leaning over as he went, his mouth open and silent, the wind rippling all the way from his nose to his tail in one wavy current. The curve was made by the dog's baffled hopes to catch the troll as he slanted across. Soon he was straight behind, and the troll toyed with speed, breathing the flowery air in long, fresh draughts above the top of the buttercups. He thought no more of the dog, but he did not cease in the flight that the dog had caused, because of the joy of the speed. And this strange chase continued over those fields, the troll driven on by joy and the dog by duty. For the sake of novelty, then, the troll put his feet together as he leaped over the flowers, and, alighting with rigid knees, fell forwards onto his hands, and so turned over, and, straightening his elbows, suddenly as he turned, shot himself into the air, still turning over and over. He did this several times, increasing the indignation of the dog, who knew well enough that that was no way to go over the fields we know. But for all his indignation, the dog had seen clear enough that he would never catch the troll, and presently he returned to the farm and found his master there and went up to him wagging his tail. So hard he wagged it that the farmer was sure he had done some useful thing, and patted him, and there the matter ended. And it was well enough for the farmer that his dog had chased that troll from his farm, for, had it communicated to his livestock any of the wonder of Elfland, they would have mocked at man, and that farmer would have lost the allegiance of all but his staunch dog. And the troll went on gaily over the tips of the buttercups. Presently he saw, rising up all white over the flowers, a fox that was facing him with his white chest and chin, and watching the troll as it went. The troll went near to him and took a look, and the fox went on watching him, for the fox watches all things. He had come back lately to those dewy fields from slinking by night along the boundary of twilight that lies between here and Elfland. He even prowls inside the very boundary, walking amongst the twilight, and it is in the mystery of that heavy twilight that lies between here and there that there clings to him some of that glamour that he brings with him to our fields. "Well, no man's dog," said the troll, for they know the fox in Elfland from seeing him often go dimly along their borders, and this is the name they give him. "Well, thing over the border," said the fox when he answered at all, for he knew troll talk. "Are the haunts of men near here?" said the troll. The fox moved his whiskers by slightly wrinkling his lip. Like all liars, he reflected before he spoke, and sometimes even let wise silences do better than speech. Men live here, and men live there, said the fox. I want their haunts, said the troll. What for? Said the fox. I have a message from the King of Elfland. The fox showed no respect or fear at the mention of that dread name, but slightly moved his head and eyes to conceal the awe that he felt. If it is a message, he said, their haunts are over there, and he pointed with his long, thin nose towards Earl. How shall I know when I get there? Said the troll. By the smell, said the fox. It is a big haunt of men, and the smell is dreadful. Thanks, no man's dog, said the troll, and he seldom thanked anyone. I should never go near them, said the fox, but for... And he paused and reflected silently. But for what? Said the troll. But for their poultry, and he fell into a grave silence. Goodbye, no man's dog, said the troll, and turned head over heels and was off on his way to Earl. Passing over the buttercups all through the dewy morning, the troll was far on his way by the afternoon, and saw before evening the smoke and towers of Earl. It was all sunk in a hollow, and gables and chimneys and towers peered over the lip of the valley, and smoke hung over them on the dreamy air. The haunts of men, said the troll. Then he sat down amongst the grasses and looked at it. Presently he went nearer and looked at it again. He did not like the look of the smoke and that crowd of gables. Certainly it smelt dreadful. There had been some legend in Elfland of the wisdom of man, and whatever respect that legend had gained for us in the light mind of the troll now all blew lightly away as he looked at the crowded houses. And as he looked at them there passed a child of 4, a small girl, on a footpath over the fields, going home in the evening to Earl. They looked at each other with round eyes. Hello, said the child. Hello, child of men, said the troll. He was not speaking troll talk now, but the language of Elfland, that grander tongue that he had to speak when he was before the king. For he knew the language of Elfland, although it was never used in the home of the trolls, who preferred troll talk. This language was spoken in those days also by men, for there were fewer languages then, and the elves and the people of Earl both used the same. What are you? Said the child. A troll of Elfland, answered the troll. So I thought, said the child. Where are you going, child of men? The troll asked. To the houses, the child replied. We don't want to go there, said the troll. No, said the child. Come to Elfland, the troll said. The child thought for a while. Other children had gone, and the elves always sent a changeling in their place, so that nobody quite missed them, and nobody really knew. She thought a while of the wonder and wildness of Elfland, and then of her own house. No, said the child. Why not? Said the troll. Mother made a jam roll this morning, said the child, and she walked on gravely home. Had it not been for that chance jam roll, she had gone to Elfland. Jam, said the troll contemptuously, and thought of the tarns of Elfland, the great lily leaves lying flat upon their solemn waters, the huge blue lilies towering into the elf light above the green deep tarns. For jam this child had forsaken them. Then he thought of his duty again, the roll of parchment and the elf king's rune for his daughter. He had carried the parchment in his left hand when he ran, in his mouth when he somersaulted over the buttercups. Was the princess here, he thought, or were there other haunts of men? As evening drew in, he crept nearer and nearer the homes, to hear without being seen. I hope that you guys have enjoyed these couple of chapters from the King of Elfland's daughter. I just thought I'd do a quick shorter episode this week, as it's been quite a busy couple of weeks. If you did, I'd really appreciate if you could like, comment and subscribe to my channel for further videos and original short stories. So without further ado, I wish you all a very good day or night, and I'll see you in the next video.